Hello viewers, very good evening from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station. And I'm your host, Aliu Sise. It is now time for your weekly State of Affairs program here on QTV Gambia. Well, it is all celebration here in the Gambia as the Scorpions of the Gambia have for the second consecutive times registered their place in the next African Cup of Nations to be hosted in Cote d'Ivoire. The Scorpions came from behind to draw 2-2 with Congo in what was a much needed game for the Scorpions. 2 goals from youngster Yankuba Minte and Mohamed Badamosi was enough to give the Scorpions the much needed draw to earn their place in the next AFCON tournament in Cote d'Ivoire. The Scorpions were in Group G together with South Sudan, Mali and Congo. They finished 10 points behind group leaders Mali, who got 15 points. I mean, the Scorpions, won 3 of their games, 2 against South Sudan and then 1 against Mali. I mean, they also drew some of their games and lost only 1. Well, like I said, joining me today to discuss this and other issues about the qualification and what does it mean for Gambian football and in terms of the preparations for the next AFCON, where should we start? I'm joined in the studio by, I have in the studio Mr. Vicente Gomez, commonly known as Humble Vicente. Vicente, good to have you on the program.
It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for the invite. Really appreciate it.
And also in the studio, I have Bakari Kejame, who's the first vice president of the Gambia Football Federation. He's been one of the key people behind the scene. Mr. Jame, good to have you on the program.
Good evening to you and all the viewers. It's a great pleasure to be here with, of course, these eminent people.
Come on, who else can we have on such a program other than, of course, Tijan Masane Sise? He said I shouldn't call him uncle, but we have Tijan Masane Sise, a former Gambian diplomat, veteran sport administrator, and a journalist. TMC, good to have you on the program.
It's my pleasure being here.
All right, before we just get into the discussion proper, let's just go with this clip at the start of the game between the Gambia and Congo, which was played in Marrakesh, Morocco. Let's take a watch.
شوية
Hey, Joppe, dat is gewoon lucht in de voeten. Huh?
That was quite a great moment. My able guest, watching the Scorpions coming out, with the national anthem, about to take on a very strong side, Congo, in what was a game that they really needed, just a draw to qualify. What was going through your minds at that moment? I will try with you, Vicente.
Very emotional, and we are feeling the same emotions right now. And honestly, it was just pride and joy. definitely listening to our national anthem and seeing our players going there to do it for us. And we are happy that they did exactly what was assigned to them.
And Mr. Jame?
It's a unique feeling to be at this point. Some of us have the opportunity to have witnessed something like this at the sub-regional level in WAFU, at the AFCON, and even at the World Cup recently.
With the under 20.
To be somewhere where your country is standing shoulder to shoulder with any country at the world scene. It's quite an honor. It doesn't happen by chance. The people that are there, it's a long journey, and there will be an army of people that are behind to make it actually happen. So it's a great pleasure in Marrakesh for all of us to see something like this to happen, and more importantly, history was rewritten again.
Like they said, it was emotional, history rewritten. Tijan Masansi, former football commentator. What was going through your mind at that moment?
Actually, I was part of the broadcast, and it took me back to a very dark moment in the history of this country. Back in 1981, when Sadauda was speaking from Senegal, and he said, and I quote, "Union is more a matter of hearts and minds, and despite the physical separation, notwithstanding, my heart and mind are with you," unquote. On Sunday, every heart and mind in this nation was in Marrakesh. And whether it was the shrines in Sanimentareng or Kachikali, they answered. And the boys came out there. I remember I said, FDF, fast, disciplined, and furious. They didn't show that in the first half. But certainly in the second half, they came out there fast, disciplined, furious, and took it to the Congolese. One thing we learned from this game is that Gambia has an offense, and that we can take any country. We are offensive football team, and we showed the world.
And talking about, I mean, how the Gambia approached the game. I mean, recently we saw in the first half, I mean, we were down by 2 goals.
Exactly.
I mean, many people were so furious. I mean, looking at the tactics of the coach, he was more defensive, according to some analysts. I mean, do you have the same feeling that he was more defensive in the first half?
Well, as they say, he who feels it knows it best. Well, I'm not just here as a fan. I'm a player myself. I've played football before. And I've been in the thick of things, even though it was
and a former sports journalist, by the way.
Whatever you call it. Sincerely, we were 2 goals down. Not honestly something that I expected, with all due respect. When we contained the Congolese for almost 18 minutes, I was hopeful that we will definitely get to recess, maybe with a draw, and we will come back and win the game. That was what was in my mind. But when we actually conceded the goal in the 19, 20 minutes, wow, which wasn't definitely something that we saw coming, I saw the players were definitely rattled. And then the second one came. Thank God a third did not come. The one that hit the woodwork would have definitely buried the game for them. But thank God, the coach, as if he was listening to Tijan, myself, and Mo Jany in the studio of JRTS, just did exactly what we were praying for, to definitely introduce a fresh pair of legs. It doesn't matter who comes in, but let there be just new blood injected. And when he brought in the 2 we needed, it just did the jinx. Because definitely those 2 ignited the others that were almost slumbering in the first half.
And VP Jame, when we considered those 2 goals, was it like it is now over for us, for you?
No.
Or you still had hope?
Ali, I would beg you. We have to put things into context. Starting a game of this magnitude, it's a point of a long process actually coming in. Before we get into this whole, please allow me, because I'm here also representing the Football Federation. We are the organization charged by the Gambia to manage the affairs of football. I want to congratulate every Gambian, from the head of state, our minister, our religious leaders, our political leaders, heads of family, young and old, for the great support they have been rendering to the Gambia national team and the Gambia Football Federation since 2014, when we took over the reins of football. before our current coach arrived, Tom Senfei, the last time Gambia won a competitive football match was in September 2013, 5 years against Tanzania, before Tom arrived. When Tom was arriving here, we were 279 in the ranking. Today we are about 119, and when it comes out again, we are going to rise. There are implications of this, and I hope in the program I'll be able to articulate those implications. We did not arrive in Marrakesh on that day by chance. This is a result of proper planning and a lot of effort by countless people in country, outside the country. Today, we can stand shoulder to shoulder with any African country, and this is our plan. When we came in 2014, we said rebuilding and rebranding, you must have heard, and then I'm sure Sangdong will be listening.
The former coach, that was his slogan.
People, yes, it was a slogan of the GFF at the time, and people were laughing at us. People like us knew exactly what was the roadmap, and we kept on the roadmap, and here we arrived.
Yeah, some of us
we are not going to
it.
play, at least the first, anytime we have seedings, we are not going to the AFCON preliminaries, and that means a lot. That means quite a lot in terms of financing, right? And in terms of the value of the country's players. So that day, I was in Marrakesh myself. I lived through the earthquake, and I knew exactly what was happening in our camp. From the point of we cannot play, we should not play, and we are going to play. Knowing Tom Senfei, who we have appointed for many, since 2018, I've been working closely with. Even today we spoke. I was not worried, because I knew he didn't set up his team that way to be nervous. Certainly, if you can see the Gambian national team, some of our players were really nervous, and I think they did not actually recover from the shock, and also they didn't recover of the physical challenge of sleeping outside near the pool for two nights, and maybe they were sleeping with one of their eyes open.
Exactly.
That's exactly what had happened. But also, some of us who know also what happens in the background, Tom always sets up his team to go and fight, putting into consideration who was the opponent. Don't forget, we are playing against Congo, Brazil. In terms of ranking, they are much ahead of us. It's a bigger country. And some of the people don't know the time of war chest in terms of the budget that these countries that we meet come.
And they also have a lot to play for.
Compare. And then also, they have a coach. Certainly, I don't know, but most likely he's lost his job, or he's about to lose his job. Before he did not qualify against Gambia, I don't think he's going to continue.
That's Paul Put.
That's Paul Put. So they were also going to come and fight. So when we were 2-0 down, we were all rattled, certainly, because this was not a script.
Yes.
For us at the GFF, we have set ourselves the target. First thing we wanted to do was to go back to the AFCON. This is not easy.
Yes.
Many countries will qualify once, and they falter. We see it takes years before they go back
to back.
But our national football development plan is premised on sustainability.
Thank you.
And I hope perhaps we will get into that, not only talking about this game and the senior national team, because there's a lot of things that underpin success, and more so sustainable success. And Gambia, we are on that trajectory, not only for the senior Scorpions, but all categories of national team, male and female. So certainly, it was very uncomfortable for everybody. I suffered 75 minutes, but I have also the privy to see again Tijan really destroying Masani Cisse, Ejiatia's camera, because after the second goal, he flew
Behind the scene.
Tijan, I'm seeing you nodding your head. I mean, something must be going through your mind right now.
Well, you know, if you remember on the broadcast,
Exactly.
I threw in a historical anecdote
You
that
did.
it wasn't over.
Until it's over.
Because I remember Real de Banjul playing against Port Authority. They were down 3-0.
True, the comeback.
Everybody left the stadium.
Yeah.
They all came back. Real won that game by 4-3.
Right.
So that's historic. But we also talked about it being a chess game
It is.
between the coaches. Right? I don't know what game people were watching, but there was a certain time in that game when the assistant coach called the head coach. I don't know if he was telling him we needed to bring Minte or whatever.
Yeah.
He would tell me.
Yeah.
But I think that was a moment.
It was.
A very crucial moment when Alaji called Paul Pot. And just for the record, the first person to score a goal in the African Nations Cup qualifier for this country was Alaji Sarr, 1984 in Sierra Leone.
Wow.
Let me throw that one there. And you remember when we looked at the fixture that he had, it was not a defensive,
No, it was
right?
offensive.
But we were outplayed in the midfield. And Congo likes to play in the flanks. If you notice,
They were dominating more on
exactly,
on the flanks.
Sandberg, he was tired. He was there. That's where they were attacking from. And we were totally dominated in the midfield.
True.
But the vitality got injected there.
Exactly.
When Jalo came in,
Yes.
it was a totally different ball game. The kids balled out. One of the most difficult things to do in football is to defend.
Exactly.
Because we're bringing it to you. And our kids, I don't know where they got the energy from, what Bucks took with him to Marrakech, with everything that happened, the earthquake and all that. And again, we send our condolences to the people of Morocco, who've been very good to the Gambian people and Gambian football.
And we have seen the
In
executive
particular.
and players even donated blood.
Exactly.
blood,
That's where I
Dom,
wanted
he
to come
called
in.
for it
I
in the
wanted to come in
pre-game
there.
show.
We must thank, honestly, the federation.
You know.
Whether it was a coincidence or they had us, but we thought Morocco was so hospitable to us, and that at this point in time of their need, we should be there for them. And when we saw what the federation and the delegation did, we were just so happy. Thank you, Bax. Thanks to the federation, thanks to the delegation, and thanks to all those who volunteered to really donate blood. We really appreciate.
Yes, Bucks.
Tijan brought in something which is actually very, very vital. Some of us are not surprised that our team reacted that way in the second half, and I'm glad that you brought in the role of the assistant manager, who is Alaji Sarr, veteran player, one of the most experienced coaches who knows football in this country in and out significantly.
Absolutely.
And over the last, since 2014, we try not only to focus at the end results, because we have been trying to improve our processes and our procedures, and also capacitizing our personnel. So we've learned, because there have been, if you recall the debate here, that the local players are good enough. Okay? Why should you only bring professionals?
Professionals, you know.
The jury will be out on that, but we decided to professionalize not our starting 11 or the reserves, but every aspect of our national team. Alaji Sarr will tell you, since he's joined the team, he had actually benefited from a lot of training, hands-on or otherwise, and all us in the department of to keep the equipment, in the physio department, in the medical department, in the training department, and the general organization. Tom basically prepares his team at the 11th hour. I mean, during the camp, but a lot of other things actually happened before, and also knowing the camp meetings, the pre-match meetings. Sometimes the things you read in the social media about Tom Semfe, it shows that people really don't know, because he's the best motivator. And this is what happened at the halftime. Certainly, I was not there in the dressing room, but I know he actually will motivate. And there's somebody that doesn't have fear, and he will tell them, do not be afraid.
Afraid.
There is no need to be nervous. And there were a few nerves around there.
Yeah,
You did mention about Noah Sonko, the right back, certainly, but I don't think it was only him in the first half. Many of our players, for good reason, were nervous. But more importantly, this is somebody whose Tam is a Gambian, like all of us, really now, who actually sets his team out to go and fight and defend the colors of the Gambia. And this is the same thing that we have been transferring to the other national teams. For example, you've seen what our exploits in the U20 in Argentina, and even before that in Egypt. Alhaji Sarr, yes, he's a very effective assistant. I'm glad you brought that up.
And I'm talking about the hunger in the players. Let's just take a listing of what Hassan had to tell the players during halftime. That's clip number 3. Let's take a listen to Hassan Ceesay's reaction to the 2-0 2 goals that they considered in the first half. And then when we come back, I mean, we'll also look at our comeback in the second half. Let's take a listen.
Let's fight. They are not faster than us. They are not more physical than us. Let's fight with them. Let's fight with them. We are not fighting. We are not fighting. Let's fight. We have to fight. We have to fight.
Everywhere, guys.
50-50, we have to fight. We have to go for the ball. We don't have to leave them to take this ball easy. They are taking the ball. They are making crosses. Look at their wingers. They are doing what they want. Even and Musa will do anything because they are hard on them. Let's go hard on them too. They are playing hard on us. Let's play hard on them. Guys, this is 45 minutes. This is not 8 minutes. Let's go out there and show what we can do.
Let's go, boys.
And that's Hassan Ceesay there. Exactly. I mean, you could see that hunger in him. I mean, let's go after them. Let's fight.
I'm getting goosebumps sitting here listening to the kids speak. I mean, this is the heart of a Gambian, you know. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Take it to them.
Exactly.
We have the talent. We have the capacity, like the Vice President just said. Let's take it to them. Our brand of football has changed. You know, we have professionals just like Congo, you know, but we are a more determined team because they were 2 up and they thought the fat lady was singing, and she wasn't singing yet.
True.
So, I mean, that kid, man,
Of course.
Just to comment.
I was just going to ask, how did you get your cameras in our dressing room?
Well, I mean,
but I'm glad now, in hindsight, you got your cameras in our dressing room. It's actually very good for Gambians and anybody watching to see really how serious
the boys are.
Not only our team, the whole organization is. Everybody involved in this are very serious. We take this actually very seriously. Why? Because football changes lives and livelihoods.
That's true.
And football is having significant benefit to our country. At the last transfer window, 68 Gambians moved.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have to do your research of the commercial value of that.
Exactly.
And then you also have to check how much of that is translating into remittance back into the country. So whatever we are spending in football is an investment, and we are going to reap far more. And it is our strategy to increase that by tenfold, from 68 to 680 Gambians after we come from AFCON. Wow. Because when the country's profile goes up, then more people, the focus come into the country, then more Gambians are going to sign professional. Recently, when we came from Argentina, about 15.
Most of them are gone.
Most all of them are gone. Yeah. This doesn't happen by chance. This is the plan of the Gambia Football Federation. Exactly. This is our national football development plan.
Exactly.
Exactly. and this is what we set out to do. Certainly, some people tend to focus on the hard ones. Yes, it will actually come, because in the past we have to start with very difficult preliminaries, and we are knocked out. We have now gone out. We have now established ourselves as a footballing nation.
No more
gone
underdogs.
back to AFCON.
I said no more underdogs.
Ask anybody who's playing in Gambia, it takes it very seriously. You prepare for us. Whoever you meet in the world and talk about football, they say you have a good team. And then we want to continue to have a good team. That is why we focus on also on the other national teams. But what Hassan have shown is what it entails, not only in ASAN, not only in the players, but also in the officials, and the organization, the Gambia Football Federation. I can assure people we take this thing very seriously.
I'm so glad that my brother Bax has given us those numbers. Now, this is to tell us that our budget for our Ministry of Youth and Sports, especially football, should increase. I've said this before and I want to repeat it here. There should be a special budget set aside for competitions, football and other sporting disciplines, because you have to have a budget for development and a budget for competitions. Otherwise, assuming the budget speech or whatever budget allocation for the Ministry of Youth and Sports is just, let's say, 30 million, their request alone for AFCON 2024 may be up to 200 million. So you see that deficit, who is going to bridge it? So thank God you've given us these numbers. I guess this is already, for me, an entry point for you to start discussions. Right now, various ministries, youth and sports, finance, tourism and foreign affairs, because the Ministry of Sports cut across almost all these ministries. And of course, who will forget about trade, industry and employment? Because football has become now one of the biggest employers. It's a big industry. So definitely, if your concentration was always Ministry of Youth and Sports, I trust now you should include or encourage other ministries to come on board. This branding you're talking about, the red, white, blue, white, green is global, whether it's in virtual media or whatever, and that is the country we are selling. Tourism. And the same thing for foreign affairs, foreign policy. Sports has become more or less like a foreign policy tool. The national anthem we heard, how often do you hear a country's national anthem? If we are not in that competition, will we ever hear it? No. So definitely, I definitely want to appeal to government to look into investing more in youth and sports development, especially having a special budget for competitions and then budget for development.
Vicente, I hear you and I completely agree with you, because one of the biggest problems facing our football and also any other sport is the issue of finance. It's funding. And so sometimes you hear certain statements, you wonder. We went to Marrakesh with a budget of $300,000. That is 21 million. As the vice chairman responsible for finance, really, if you wanted to actually live in the normal comfort with me, you're talking about 30 million. We have to do a lot of work. We will understand the position the economy of our country is. And then that is why we are diverting our operational funds to the issues of the national team, and which we have real problems explaining to the funder, which is FIFA. Why do we have to fund, which is, Gambia is definitely, or the countries I know, in WAFU A and many other countries, because I'm also a CAF match commissioner. I go and commission, I was the commissioner between Burkina Faso and Eswatini, so I am in close contact with them. I know that we are the only country now that the GFF uses FIFA forward funds for our national team. All other countries are fully funded by their countries. But eventually, we also are cognizant of the fact that our football for many years has been behind. So you have to raise it to a certain point, then you have a good product, and that is very easy to sell. So certainly in your introduction you said we've qualified. Now what next? Maybe we will talk about what next. Yes, because we'll have to manage going to Cote d'Ivoire more a little bit differently how we manage going to Cameroon. And
TMC, with this qualification, and you have heard from the first vice and taken by yourself, funding, you of course, buttressed by Vicente. I mean, what next? What should the government do now to ensure the funding of the national teams? I mean, they take responsibility, because that's what it should be.
I think Gambian football has come a long way.
It has.
If you, in terms of funding and managing it and moving it forward, I fully remember when teams traveled to Freetown for a week and the players were given $100 you know, for pocket money. I fully remember when private individuals funded the national team. When Bax was talking about camping jerseys and all that, I'm like, wow, we only had one set. Probably was owned by Hawks, Umbros. We played with it for the national team. So we've come a long way. Now, you've talked about government involvement, right? Okay. Now, what about private sector participation? We now have Balu, or whatever, sponsoring the league. Your institution here, QCell, and your neighbors, AfriCell, they do a lot in promoting and supporting Gambian sports and football in particular. And I think there should be more private sector involvement, right? Our national pledge says it's a combination of government and the people.
But we also have to acknowledge that we have seen much more improvement now as far as government's intervention or involvement in the funding is concerned.
Without a doubt. He just cited economy. And government can just do so much at this point. And quite frankly, I think they're pushing the pocket and they're doing what they can. We just need more involvement of the private sector. Football, like Bax spoke about, it's beyond just the physical aspect on that field. You know, a whole nation came together on Sunday night.
Unity.
Every Gambian was smiling Monday morning and talking to each other, regardless of where you swing on the political pendulum or, you know, where you come from. We are one nation for once because of the game we also love and cherish. So it's also just important that we come together. I remember when I called the Gambia game here in 2003, Gambia-Senegal. Preview to that game, Bax, people were coming from all over the country bringing money for the national team. You know, I think we also need that little $10, $20, you know, to support the national team. You know, this is not about the GFF. When you had that national anthem, you knew this was about our nation. And Sunday night, everybody was proud to be a Gambian.
And we will take a listen, we will take a watch as to why everyone was proud. Let's now look at the highlights of our comeback from that 2 goals down in the first half. Let's take a watch. Well, that's you have it. 2 goals in 10 minutes. Yankuba Minte and Mohamed Badamosi. Quite incredible comeback.
Look, what this comeback means, the Gambia has secured the point that we need to qualify for Cote d'Ivoire 2023 that will be played in February in 5 stadiums in Abidjan, and Yamoussoukro and many other cities. We're waiting for the draw. What this means that we've written history again to qualify back to back. And this is not actually easy. What this means that our players are going to rub shoulders with the best players across. What it means that in 1 month, the country, the Gambia, name and flag will be up there, not only in the 54 countries of Africa, but around the world. What this means that all the major teams in all the major leagues with their scouts will be watching not only our players there, but will be finding out about footballers of Gambia and Gambian heritage. What this means that many of our young people will now have to leave their dreams to turn professional. The value of this runs in the tens and millions of dollars. This is what is actually happened that night in Marrakesh.
Exactly.
But like I said before, this didn't happen by chance. This is the plan. And then the plan is to keep repeating this, not only at this level, but at the junior level. In November, we're starting the step for the World Cup
qualifiers.
We believe we can go to the World Cup.
That's right.
Our opponents believe our team can beat them to go to the World Cup. They're going to prepare better for us. The football families in country, in Africa, and the world believe that Gambia is a team that can stand shoulder to shoulder with Nigeria, with Senegal, with Egypt, with Algeria, with Cameroon, with any other team. Because look at our record. All the teams that we've been beating are much higher than us in ranking. Why? Because of the commitment that you have just seen from Hassan representing all of us. We've had a lot of things. We've seen a lot of things. We have commentaries of people that don't know. But we kept focus. And we are grateful to everybody that contributed to this. When we took over the reins of football, the government was not contributing. But today, the government pays part of the budget of the senior national team. First time in the history at the youth level, when we are going to the World Cup, the government contributes. But we have FIFA funding, and we are trying in other ways to ensure that we register as much national teams as possible. Because we are going to get to the point that the commercial people will know that associating, and we have started. People have started knocking at our doors, that this product is a good product. We can have a win-win. Certainly, in a country like this, some of us who know, you don't expect to get 100% of funding of all sports from the consolidated funds. It's just not there. The hospitals are also competing for it. Education is competing for it. Agriculture is competing for it. However, you talked about 2003. I was a part of the integral part of the organization of the FIFA under 17 in 2005 here. As chairman of the marketing committee and a member of the local organizing committee, we were able to raise 80% of our budget outside government. The government did the physical, but all the other running costs, hosting all the teams that came in, paying their hotels, and the CAF delegation, etc., we were able to raise it. The confidence was high. Before my colleagues come in, I think I have to say this, because as an institution, it's not about the president or the vice president or members of the board or the general secretary. The Gambia Football Federation is an institution for the Gambia. And for too long, this institution has been under attack by people beyond our imaginations, because things that have been said doesn't happen. And it doesn't impact only on the people running the institution, but it impacts even the ability of the institution to raise the required funding that we need to be able to have these sort of successes. It's part of it. We take it on the chin. We take the criticisms. We take note of some of the unfair allegations. Some of the allegations which are not true. But I think now, as a country, we are all proving it. We can go to the next level and get together and not only raise the flag at the highest level, but also offer opportunities to our young men and women to live their dreams. And
I'll bring in both TMC and Vicente here. I mean, you're talking about the upcoming qualifiers, the World Cup. I mean, the state of our infrastructure at the moment, the Independence Stadium is not in use, and because of that, we've been playing all our games in Morocco. I mean, what next? I mean, how soon do you expect to see the Independence Stadium fully ready? I mean, that's the responsibility of the government, by the way, not the GFF.
Well, yeah,
so
but let me just add something to what the VP has said. Of course, I am a fan of the game, fan of Gambian football, and evidently, they will write, and they will talk, and they will scrutinize. But you have an answer. Look at our record. That's the answer. Look at our record. I mean, Gambian football is thriving. You have to be doing something right to get that result in Marrakesh. Now, checks and balances are good, I am always delighted when I see the GFF press department come out and set the record straight. And that's checks and balances right there. But for anybody to say that, hey, everything is about results, results oriented.
And let's talk about infrastructure. We're running out of time.
Well,
instead of our infrastructure.
I think infrastructure-wise, we are low now. We can't even play the FA Cup now because the GFF is doing everything it can to play a female first division league, male, same with second and third. What's the infrastructure? You don't even have enough facilities for it, right? And it hurts the game because now we can't even play the FA Cup. Can this stadium be ready by March to host games? Maybe.
I'm so Vicente will have loved them in the stadium with his national flag cheering up the boys.
To be very honest with you, that was our desire at R2C, Road to Cote d'Ivoire. That was the desire. And honestly, we wanted the whole Gambia to come in their red, white, blue, white, green. But since really, well, the opportunity never came, some people really didn't dress up in the red, white, blue, white, green. But I trust this qualification will make people come back with the belief that we will start playing in our national stadium come next year, because November is the qualifiers. I doubt if the stadium would be ready by November, because to be honest, I don't know whether work is still ongoing there or it has stopped since, well, it was more or less pronounced by CAF that it is not fit for purpose or for this game. But whichever way we want to start watching our national team play in our national stadium. Whether it's good for the players or not, that's something else. How long shall we continue running away from playing at home? All because the fans or supporters or people are not supportive of the team when it is winning. If others are not, I am definitely in for the team regardless of who is there. It's not about the federation. It's not about backs. It's not about the ministry. It's about the cause. And I'm interested in the cause, not the applause. Sports is my life, and I would love to watch these players play, cheer them up. When they win, we celebrate with them. Even when they play away, it is good. They come back home, we celebrate with them, and then they can go. But most of the time when they play away, which is our home game, they just depart back. And I don't think it's good for fans.
I have had an opportunity to visit the stadium. And I can say here, the standard of work that they're doing in there is beyond excellent, for lack of a better word. Now, if that stadium is ready,
but it's still not approved by CAF.
Ultimately it will be. But moving forward, do we take ownership of it? That's one thing we don't do right here. And let's call it what it is. Are we going to take ownership of it? You know, that stadium, you could eat in those bathrooms when it opened, you know, in the 80s, because at the time the Chinese were taking care of it. At least for 3 years, until I left this country, that stadium was spotless. Sekou Sarr was running it. You know, it also has to do with us taking ownership and care that this belongs to the country. Let us as individuals, as Gambians, take ownership of it and make sure we maintain it until we have a new.
But just before you come in, let's just take a watch of this video that my colleague Modu Gajaga did with some fans at Westfield immediately the Scorpions booked their place to the AFCON. Let's take a watch of this video at Westfield.
di tang football ay force ma ngi ñëk gëlëm gaay fight nañ bu baaxa baax ba last minute fight nañ yépp ñëpp ñu na jéna waye jéxul ak ñom ñu ngi fight nak di fight ba affaire yi
cheering up Yankuba Minte's name, who orchestrated the comeback after scoring to reduce the deficit for Gambia. Mr. Mansali, I'm not a team of content.
Ana kontaan Gajaga man xamoon naa lii maa ngi toog naa suma pol bu ndaw bi bu ñu scorer 2-0
pol du den ndaw de Jola moo den ndaw
pol Jola moo den ndaw non pol moo den ndaw mu ne ma ne dañoo équalize ma ne ko na inkañ yaakaar naa ne dañoo am dara noonu lañ fa nekkee laaj dem ma jël suma mobile be browse benn goal duga balaa ñoo xam lu yem maga mu ne ñu suñu amee 80 minutes dañoo score balaa xam ne second goal bi duga ma ne ngàcce ngalaama dinaa gërëm président Adama Barrow nguuraam ñaari yoon ñu ngi dem African Cup of Nations waaye maa ngi ñaan Bakary Badji na ngay try by all means suñu stadium bi pare
Bada Moses Senwa, Yankuba Mide, condemned, wow, Baro, ça passe bien, ça passe bien.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm very happy, you know, at the beginning, definitely, you know, it was very sad because, you know, Jamie no muy deme, coach be defensive, you know, te ñun légui né bëgguñ lolu understand nga because dañu demone be, you know.
Well, Bax, watching those images, I mean, those reactions from those supporters, I mean, as a current executive member of the Gambia Football Federation, this must be a very proud moment for you.
Certainly, football, this is what it does. It's a game of emotions. It can bring amazing emotions to people. It can unite people. I don't know of anything that unites our country more than football now. We've seen this with the Under-20s campaign from WAFU to AFCON to the World Cup recently. Before that, when we went to Cameroon, now we've all seen the images. Earlier on, you were talking about football infrastructure, something that really is very important, something many people perhaps don't comprehend that much. Today, the Gambia's only major stadium, which is the Independence Stadium, doesn't meet the criteria. The CAF has set for Class A, which is senior national team to play. Certainly, there's work that is going on by the Ministry of Youth and Sport and the government at large, working with the Ministry of Works, and we hope that when we play our next game in November, it should be ready for us to play, because playing outside costs you more, and what people don't realize that then you don't have any income.
Yes.
If you go to the Independence Stadium, we will have, it will be full, we'll have tickets, and we'll have adverts, and we'll have sponsors, and perhaps that might be even to the equivalent of what the cost of the games. This is putting so much pressure financially and also logistically on the Gambia Football Federation. The players don't want to play. They want to see, after the game, come and celebrate.
Yes.
Not only with the general public, but their families here. Unfortunately, that is not happening. Gambia is not alone in that. But football infrastructure is a key element in football development. You cannot understate it. That's the fact. And people tend to look at the central government. In other countries, like in Senegal, most of the stadiums are built by the municipalities or private, because football is a private state. Sports, people that are passionate, and now, how many players have signed out? That has value for the clubs that they are coming from. That has value for owners of the clubs. Like us in Real de Banjul, I mean, for a runaway Real de Banjul this year.
I'm coming back home.
Coming back. Over the years, what we have been doing, when we transfer players, we reinvested back into the game. That's why we were able to build the Live Your Dreams
in Basori.
And some of the GFF games, both male and female, are played in there. If there were 3 other or 4 other clubs that have done exactly like that, that reduces the pressure on the infrastructure. But infrastructure cannot be funded from consolidated funds. The country must think of other ways of funding infrastructure. And we have to have this debate. I mean, sometimes the municipalities and government don't reach out, or they don't actually consult the people directly, so that we can talk about it.
Reach out to them.
Yes, certainly we do. Certainly we do. Remember,
it's quite interesting, but I'm being told time is up. I mean, I'll just allow Vicente and Mr. TMC in just under 30 seconds.
Well, thank you very much for the invite, and we just want to say thank you to all Gambians, thank you to the fans club, thank you to the road to Cote d'Ivoire. Again, we are moving to Canada, R2C to R2C.
TMC?
History for victory for prosperity.
TMC, in 10 seconds.
Well, like always, it's a pleasure watching Gambian football go to the highest level at continental level and hopefully global level soon. This is the time for us to come together as a nation and work and support the people that are charged with the responsibility to run football. We can disagree, but we can agree on one thing, that there is positive results in Gambian football today. So let's work together.
Let's work together. That's TMC, and we also look forward to more collaboration between the football authorities and the media houses to ensure, we are able to get to where we want to, because the media also plays a very crucial role as far as the development of Gambian football is concerned. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of the State of Affairs program. My guests were Vicente Gomez, fondly called Humble Vicente, a sport enthusiast. Bakari K. Jame, who is the first vice president of the Gambia Football Federation, and TMC, a former government diplomat, veteran sport administrator, and journalist. TMC, it was good to have you on the program. And on behalf of the management and staff of QTV, we say a big congratulations to the leadership of the Gambia Football Federation, to the players, the coach, and the technical staff, and of course to the President of the Republic, President Adama Barrow, who is an Arsenal fan. I know these days he's very active when it comes to football because Arsenal is doing well. But well, on behalf of the entire team here at QTV, we thank you so much for watching, and do enjoy the rest of your night. Bye-bye from me, Alusi, and the entire team. Bye-bye.